That's
What else is new?
Yeah, you guys like my new
new?
cup? You guys like my new cup?
You don't even have it.
I don't have it today. I just have a water cup. I didn't bring one of my reusable ones. I should have. Shame on me on a Friday. But you know what we do have? Well, I don't want to call them the geriatrics, but we've got a well-seasoned team to focus on in the other 31 today. The LA Kings. Zach Dooley, Kings insider, phenomenal. He's my brethren who also worked for the teams up in Glens Falls, New York, back in the AHL days. So hit that bell. Let's do a Friday right here, live on DLLS.
All right, here we go. Everybody shut the fuck up.
Welcome, everybody, to the DLLS Stars podcast. It is Friday. It is August the 21st, alongside Sam Nestler, a.k.a. Babyface Nestler. Yeah, I decided to go a little shorter on the old stubble today, didn't you?
Yeah, it's hot outside.
How does it feel?
It's good.
Weird?
Yeah. I figured I got a month before I have to be anywhere.
We should
Take a chance.
We could actually do that because I haven't shaved it down to the stubble or like clean shaven for a long time. Maybe because it looks better, maybe because it's lazy. But like we could do a beard bet at some point.
Let's do it. I'll grow it out all season. I haven't shaved in 3 years since I played Dlls for Halloween.
Shave, but you've trimmed.
Yeah. I just mean I haven't been clean.
You know what we should do is try to get Sam to lose a bet and have to do like the I don't shave for a year, the Forrest Gump beard.
I love it.
That would be pretty. Yeah, and then you could just
like
say
Sean. I'm not like Sean though. Sean just 3 days after being clean shaven, it just comes on with a massive beard.
The amount of hair that grows on him fast is insane. Do you think Katie, your new wife, would be happy with a unkempt beard?
I don't know. She doesn't like this.
What did she say?
You should have seen her face.
What did she say?
Tell her. She came in and we were talking. She was like Petty Mako, and then she looked up to give me a kiss. She went, "Whoa!" I was like, "What? You don't like it? She said, you don't look like my husband."
Yeah. Nicole said once the last time I did it, I looked like I was 12.
Yeah.
And she didn't care for that either. So
it won't be long.
Before we bring on our other guy, no, not yet. We have a quick new merch drop for football season.
Ooh.
Check this out. New DLS football shirts. If you want to get this, sign up to be a diehard today. There's also a little hint in here, diehard pro level. More news on that on Monday. Sam's going to have some new stuff to talk about. So study up, Sam.
Yeah.
We got some new.
I got to start reading Slack. I didn't know we had new shirts.
We have new shirts. Well, Ryan and I are prepared at least.
Heck
so
yeah.
we got you that. So if you'd like to get a brand new DLLS football shirt, check those out today. And maybe Luds will tell you about that. Speaking of Luds.
Does that bottom one have toilet paper in his hand?
Hold on.
Oh, we got to bring that back on.
Yeah.
Does he?
No,
it's
his
hand?
fist.
Oh,
it does. Yeah, I see.
I thought it was going like little giants throwing the toilet paper in the grocery store kind of thing, you know?
All right. So I did it again. I didn't even think about that.
Right.
That one wasn't on purpose. Let's bring on this guy over here who's not here, but he's over there.
His blunder has flow, his shin pads were wide. Even Vinnie Paul would say that he's a swell guy. Hey, Luds, Luds, we love our Luds. 2 cups to...
That's the longer one. The other one is a quick, he gets his theme.
There are so many.
Luds, you have like 400 intro songs already.
I'm going to throw up.
Did you just hear that?
Did she say I'm going to throw up?
Yep.
Does she not like that one, or does she think that you're getting too much attention?
I don't know. She poked her head out of her cave and said, I'm going to throw up.
That's about right. Well, another day with Craig Ludwig, not in 100+ degrees. What are we at, Sam? Is that 11 or 12 straight days?
Yeah, it's not.
And we're at 30+.
Katie
for the
told
summer.
me there was rain on the forecast for next week. It's gone now.
Yeah.
We had a little hope, but now it's gone.
What do you got, Luds? You're Mr. Weather guy. Oh.
72. Wow. That's beauty. Zach's going to be in some beautiful weather too in LA, I bet.
Yeah. He can. Yeah. Zach Dooley will be joining us in our next couple of segments to talk about the Kings. And yeah, Luds, this is your last show that we believe until you surprise us all by saying you're never coming back. You're supposed to be here on Monday for our Florida Panthers other 31.
Well, I thought I was going to Florida to do that.
Yeah, we're gonna fly you to
What
Sunrise.
made you think that the company was going to fly you to Florida?
Well, that I know better than that. I was going to stop there on the way around.
That's a detour.
I think that's on the way, right?
Sure.
Sunrise is right on the way.
He's just gonna do a big loop. He'll just go straight past.
Lud, speaking of Wisconsin, how about your boy Joe Pavelski getting a job with the Badgers there? What do you think about that?
Kind of surprised a lot of people, huh?
Yeah.
And I didn't. You would think that, up here and a couple hours away from where Joe lives, you'd hear something. And I have my really good friend, Jack Stoskopf, is really good friends with Joe. And so I would have thought that if, obviously he doesn't know either, or didn't know about it, because he would have probably shot him a text or something like that. So good for Joe. I mean, that could be a good step in the process. Should he, want to, because I just think that for guys that when they get out of the league, out of the NHL, and then take that step right away or within a year or two, and don't give themselves time to, one, decompress, the other one just kind of go through the process and the steps, whether it's a junior team, minor league team, whatever it may be, just get out and step right into the pros. But I think the good news is for guys like that, and I've said this before, I just think with the newer generation, they're wired differently than a lot of us were, and every year they get younger. They think differently, they act differently. So I've always said, I said the same thing about Monty. When Monty was at University of Denver and doing that there, he's got hands-on 18, 19, 20-year-old kids. And so when you play in the league, in the NHL, you got 3-4 games a week sometimes, right? And so there, it's just the opposite. You got a couple days a week, and then you got to know what they're doing the other 5 and where they are, their grades, keep tabs on them, make sure they're doing the right things at school and all that other kind of stuff. That didn't really happen when we were there. I mean, it was a little bit different back in the day, but I think now, I don't want to say they're more high maintenance, but they want to know everything they can possibly know and learn. And so I think you go through that step, and now instead of jumping from being with pros for 20 years, and now you're jumping right back into being with 19, 20-year-old kids. I think it's a good process to go through. So maybe that's Pav's line of thinking. Maybe it was awesome to be asked about an NHL job. I don't know if that surprised him much, or coming into that. But I think now if he can get himself through go through the U and deal with those guys for a period of time, and then maybe make the next step.
Yeah, it was cool. He's in player development. For anyone who didn't see, Joe Pavelski was hired by University of Wisconsin hockey team. But it'll be cool too, Luds. You mentioned the one thing I thought was, he has great experience with that, not only from playing with a bunch of young kids. I mean, he was the father to Wyatt Johnston for a long time, but his son Nate is right in that area, right? I think he's playing junior. And then, as you said, he gets to stay home too, right? He gets to stay in and around the area he wants to go, and he doesn't have to go move his whole family right away. So he kind of gets the best of both worlds, where he can still be, a little bit retired, be in Wisconsin, be around family, coaching younger kids, a little less pressure. And then now maybe he jumps into an NHL. Who knows? I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if 2 years from now he was a GM of some team, because that's just the way he is as a guy, right? So it's a cool step. And obviously for me specifically, college hockey, cool connection for a former Badger.
Yeah, I'm actually going to send him a text here. We're playing our first weekend every year with our U18 team. We usually we go to Nashville, and all about the buses, and it's more of and with our guys, we make it a bus trip. I'm not a big fan of it, but it's a 10 or 12-hour bus trip, but it's more of a bonding thing for those guys. They get to spend time on the bus and all that kind of stuff. Anyway,
hey, Luds, did you bus at North Dakota, or did you fly? Because guys,
we did. We did. Like there were some places we bused, other places we flew. I mean, it was a combination of both.
Yeah.
Like going to Minnesota, stuff like that. That was different. We went to Marquette and some of those places. Wisconsin, I think we flew to. Marquette, we flew to, but not a lot. It was more bussing. But when you're only doing it every other second, third weekend or something like that, it's nothing like what goes on now when the guys are in the minors and having to bus. So, but
we lived on that thing.
Our first weekend with our U18s coming up, second week or whatever it is in September here. We play a Saturday, Sunday in Madison. So
nice.
Yeah. So maybe we'll see both them guys there.
What week is that?
It's the
Second weekend of September.
14th, 15th,
After
whatever
Labor Day.
that weekend is. 14th, 15th, something like that.
Yeah. Hey, Luds, random question. Since we're sitting here and we have a few minutes before we get to the Kings, I'm curious, how is it playing 2 games a week? Because we talked about that a lot with college and the adjustment
So
to get
different.
to the NHL, but how weird is that for a player that you, obviously you did it?
Well, you know what? I don't know. For me, it was just a natural thing. I mean, it's all I knew. So it wasn't weird. It was like, but you get a lot of coaching, right? I mean, you got, you have a lot of one-on-one stuff with your coaches. There's more time to develop, I feel, and instead of the younger guys coming in and, I'm talking about when they step right into the NHL. It's the same thing for the minor leagues, I would assume. I'm very lucky. I never played there, but my minor leagues was North Dakota. That's the way I look at it. So, and there was great competition. And it was different for me when I stepped in because, man, I'm in there and you go as a 17, 18-year-old kid and you're a freshman, whatever. And then these other freshmen come in. Like we had 4, 5, 6 freshmen, but they had full beards and, I mean, they were big. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? Like, then I didn't know anything about junior hockey. Well, they were overage juniors. So they came in as freshmen at 20 years old, 20 and 21. Then, I didn't even know that until the following year. I was always afraid to ask a question. So then I kind of figured it out. But again, those guys came in and they were just bigger, stronger. They were prepared to play at the University of North Dakota where I was. I mean, you stepped in and they were top line guys right away. And they could handle all the physical kind of stuff, So again, it's everybody I think develops differently, but I just felt that, and those guys, then when they made that step, most of them only went a year or two because they were now 22, 23, and they'd been drafted, things like that. So, and it worked out it's funny, as good as the players that I played with, John Casey played in the NHL, Troy Murray.
John Casey for a
James
long
Patton.
time.
Yeah. And so, but there were a lot of those other guys that were great players. Like, so you guys heard of Cyclone Taylor. Mark Taylor, his nickname was Cyclone. That was his grandfather.
It's a great nickname.
Anyway, Tails, Dougie Smaler played for a while. Phil Sykes was, played for 6-7 years. And guys that I thought when I were teammates of theirs, that, man, they were going to play 15, 20 years. You just never know.
Luds, bad news. The Badgers men's hockey team opened their schedule at home against Robert Morris on Friday, October 2nd in Madison. So unless they have some sort of preseason scrimmage or something in September before their first game, I mean, they should be around, but they don't have a game.
Oh, they'll be there. I didn't know. I know they're not playing games. I just figured they'd be around Madison and probably practicing. And because most colleges, when do they get started? They get started like the weekend before September?
August. I think in August,
next week, I think.
Yeah.
A lot of
usually
schools.
like the August 20th, I feel like, is when I would start.
We always started right after the day after Labor Day.
Okay.
But
That's
we
late.
also we had to report for soccer.
Yeah.
We had a 2-week preseason 2 weeks before everybody else started. That was a lot of fun. Nothing like doing 3 days.
It's great, though, on campus when no one's there.
Oh, you
go to the cafeteria
and as a freshman,
it's empty.
Not only did I learn the whole campus before everybody else got there, I knew 30 soccer players. And so I remember the other freshmen showed up and I'm walking to something and going, oh, hey, how you doing? And they're like, how do you know all these people? Well, we've been here for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Just grinding. So a little better shape back then, though. So
happens.
Yeah. All right. I did it again. Before we get to Zach, though, I did want to bring up one thing about and congratulations to Joe Pavelski for joining the Badger staff. Luds, my quick thought on the Kings before we ask Zach. Well, they're certainly well-seasoned. This roster is the oldest in the league going into the year, projected. A lot of 30-somethings. They have a couple young guys that are exciting, but they have a lot of cagey vets. If they can stay healthy, they could be a problem. That might be an issue for a team that has a lot of miles on them.
Yeah, and adding a couple extra games during the course of the season. But I think, again, I was talking to somebody else about this too. And, the last couple of years, we talk about the schedule all the time for these guys. And obviously we talk about Dallas and their guys and hopefully being healthy through all this. Maybe it's, they've got a week or 6 days or whatever for an all-star break and that kind of stuff. So maybe when there's not guys that are, and again, you always talk about, well, the Kopitars, Doughties, and those guys usually are playing in all those tournaments, right? And so, and you lean on those guys throughout the year. The whole thing about what is Corey Perry now? 51 or is he 49?
41, yeah.
Well played.
But I'll tell you what, I can joke about Corey. I think he's 41 years old, but I can joke about him. I'll tell you what, if the age never came up, I don't know if you would really. I mean, I know he's lost a step from when he broke into the league in his first 10 years, but he still plays the game the same way. He knows exactly what he's on the team for. And I think he's the kind of guy that, Laviolette, if he has to, he'll move him up in the lineup at times. He can get something out of him, putting him up on the first, second line. I think the best thing about a Corey Perry is he can sense the temperature of a game. He knows, when to do this and when maybe to do this and then do that. But otherwise, he reads the game the proper way. Why not? When you say you got a few younger guys on the team, and those guys can be role models in certain ways, depending on the player.
If we have to get to Zach, but if you had Corey Perry to play on your fourth line and on your second power play unit, net front, playoff stuff, why wouldn't you?
All day.
Right?
He was one of my favorite players the way he played. He was one of the ones that just always found a way around the net. And he was one of the rare breeds of such a pain in the ass, such a
agitator
to play against, but great hands. And when he was, before he got a little older, he was skilled. He was a little more speedy. He was dangling people, just a fun player. But I think it's good for him. He finally has the sigh of relief. I don't have to go to the final and lose again, maybe. The curse is broken. Last year didn't go to the final and lose.
Nope.
Maybe this year he can go to the final and win.
Well, more on that in a moment. We'll bring on Zach next here on DLLS.
The DLS Stars podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. Baseball fans, you think you know who's hitting a homer today? Well, FanDuel is giving you a free chance to call your shot with daily dingers. It's just another reason why FanDuel is at the home for home runs. So you ready to play your game today? Join all the action at FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com to play daily dingers and make your free pick on who's hitting a homer. Play ball and swing for the fences on FanDuel, an official partner of the MLB. 21 plus select states for Kansas in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, 18 plus DC, Kentucky, and Wyoming. No purchase necessary. Opt-in required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including any token expiration and max wager amount. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER, 1-800-MY-RESET. Call 1-888-789-7777. Visit ccpg.org/chat. Connecticut. Visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org. Call 1-800-327-5050 in Massachusetts. Call 1-877-8-HOPE-New York. Text HOPE New York in New York. Call 1-877-770-7867 Louisiana.
Football is almost back, and you can win big money with Splash Sports and All City, the $500,000 Survivor Contest. We all know how Survivor contests work, right? You just pick straight up winners each week, and you can't pick the same team twice. Make the right picks throughout the season to avoid being eliminated, but one wrong mistake, you're out. How about this? The contest has a guaranteed $500,000 payout. Let me say that again. A guaranteed $500,000 payout. Sign up today so you're ready for week one. You just go to alldlls.com/survivor. I'm entered and competing against you for $500,000. I'm not kidding. I'm entered. So $500,000 up for grabs. Enter today at alldlls.com/survivor. That's alldlls.com/survivor. Sponsored by Splash Sports, paid partnership, skill-based contest, not sports betting. Open to U.S. residents 18 and over. Void where prohibited. Entry fee $25. Rules at splashsports.com/allcity. Okay. You like that? Just something different. I know I had to think about it. Let's bring on our guest today. He is returning to the DLS Stars podcast. We had Zach Dooley, LA Kings insider, here last year. He was in his office, which looked amazing. Now he's in a more casual setting, but the topics and content will still be the same. Zach, thank you very much. And not only are we thrilled to have you back on, but do you want to make us feel terrible about the weather? Are you in Los Angeles right now?
I am.
What's the temperature today in LA?
Let's take a peek on the iPhone. It is in El Segundo, which is where the Kings practice rink is, and where I live. It is 81 and sunny. Balmy.
Oh,
We're in a heat wave. It's been
so
tough.
are we.
Yeah, it's been tough. It's hard. Like, you go to places like Dallas and it's just not like this. It's just a little bit different. It's been challenging for us out here to be able to cope with it. So thank you for your thoughts.
Well, Luds is still in Wisconsin. He's coming back. He's been there for a while this summer, where he's been making fun of us daily because it's like 75 during the day and 45 at night, which is what I call perfect Maine summer. Wisconsin, similar weather.
It hasn't been 70. I don't know if it's been 80s here at night.
No, I think
It's
it
like
was
92.
I think the low was 87
Oh, beauty.
overnight a couple nights ago.
Beauty.
Yeah.
Beach weather.
There's nothing like it's being like 1 a.m. and it's still 94 degrees outside where you just go, what are we doing? Anyway, beside the point. Let's talk about the Kings. I want to get away it's not negative, but my one thought as I started looking through the Kings roster this morning of, wow, there's a lot of 30 plus age. This is not a young roster, right? You have a couple of really good young players, but a lot, including some of the guys added this summer that are in their mid 30s or older. And then I looked on Elite Prospects. It's literally the number one average age team projected roster going into this season. So that's a very interesting, well-seasoned group, but there'll be some challenges there as well.
Well, if Luds wants to unretire, you could probably bring down the average age of the group by a couple of years.
Hey, Zach.
Hey, Luds. Yeah.
I can't say it, so I can just show it.
I love it.
I appreciate
He also called
that.
Corey Perry 55 or something earlier. So
yeah.
I heard, yeah.
Is there any concern about going into a season where your roster is that more advanced? I don't want to say old. It's just
They're old. It's not anything bad. They're old.
they're well experienced.
I mean, you look at the moves the Kings made, it certainly was those older type players. I think, the moves made were short-term deals for older guys, right? Eric Halla, Matt Zuccarello, Corey Perry, Eric Gustafson, all 1 to 2 year deals, all in their mid to late 30s. Consistent there. It's not a concern in October, and you don't know if it's a concern until it's a concern, right? Obviously, I understand what you guys are asking. You wonder over the course of an 84-game schedule, when you get into the dog days, when you're playing 16 games in 30 days in January, like, how does an older roster measure up? And especially when you're in LA, one of the teams that travels more than most, being on the West Coast, the travel schedule is harder, I think, for teams out in California. So yeah, I think that there could be some concern, but you can't really go into the year planning for that, right? I don't think you can say, well, we're older, we're going to break down. The Kings do have some depth. I think they have a lot of guys who could play at the bottom of the lineup. So if there are injuries, there are guys who could step in or step up. But no doubt about it, the team is older than it was last year, and it's the oldest team in the league. So you could say it's older, you could say it's experienced, depending on if you're glass half full, glass half empty. So we'll go with experienced.
Well, Zach, and I agree with you. And not only that, but they're hungry. You know what I mean? Like, I think Corey Perry would like another cup. Doughty'd like another cup. You know what I mean? There's a couple guys that played a long time that still want that first cup. So, I think that those guys have something. And I think when there's one guy, it's a little bit more difficult. When there's more, 3, 4, 5 of those guys, I think they can make a louder voice, calling guys out and saying, hey, we need to be better. And I think you can rally around that. Why is Lavi? Why is Peter Laviolette the guy? Why is he the right guy to come in here with this particular group?
Well, I think with Peter, if you think about the way the Kings have played forever, it's been about defense, right? It's been a team that defends. Goal scoring is a problem. They try to beat you 2-1 or 3-2. And frankly, it just hasn't worked. I mean, the Kings have lost in the first round 5 years in a row with that mentality. They've been competitive at times. They've been in the mix. They've worked back into the playoffs, but they haven't gotten over that hump. And a lot of it is centered around not being able to put the puck in the net enough. You bring in Peter Laviolette and Phil Housley as his associate coach. Everything they're saying is very different than the things we've heard from the Kings over the years. You look at the signings, Matt Zuccarello brought in to produce offensively. The Kings acquired Artemi Panarin to produce offensively. The organization is shifting the mindset a little bit. into something that I think is a little bit more modern. Despite the age, the offensive approach this year is going to be a little bit different. And that's how Peter Laviolette wants his teams to play. He wants defensemen to join the rush. He wants four-man attacks. He wants to play with the puck. The best defense is a good offense kind of situation. And I really liked that Peter Laviolette is bringing new philosophies into the organization. He's not here probably for 10 years. It's a 3-year contract. His track record suggests instant improvement in the first year, maybe year 2. And I think that's the group that the Kings have, right? It's an older team that isn't going to be, it's not going to look anything like this in 5 years. So I think he's kind of the right coach for right now. And I really like the hire personally.
So you're talking about the coaching staff. I'm interested in Ray Whitney, longtime player, played here in Dallas a little bit. And also I think he was a scout for a little bit within the NHL, but I think this is his first coaching gig in the NHL. What does he bring? What's the reason to bring him in as a first year?
And Peter's obviously really comfortable with him, right? He was on the 06 Carolina team, so he knows him well. I think with Ray, he was an outstanding player. Not a Hall of Fame player, but a Hall of very, very good kind of guy. Had an excellent career. He was a really good player. And I think that Peter sees the personality as something that he feels complements what he and Phil are doing. But he has a lot to offer the forwards here. He was a good power play guy in his playing career. He was a good offensive player. And you look at the staff that the Kings had. Peter's at the top. Phil Housley and Chris Height, the other assistant, are both defensively oriented. They needed a guy to work with the forwards. And you never know, I don't think, how a player will translate into a coach until he does it. But if you're going to trust someone who doesn't have the experience, you go with someone that you know. And Peter Laviolette went with someone who he thinks the personality should mix. And you look at what Ray Whitney's been doing. He's worked at the league. He's been around the game, even if not in it. We spoke with Peter a couple of months ago. He said he was really impressed with what Ray was saying, impressed with the hockey conversation. And he saw that a pretty good fit there. And I like bringing one different kind of coach into the mix, right? Peter Laviolette, extremely experienced. Phil Housley, extremely experienced. Chris Height's addition, he's been in the system for 10 years, so he knows the Kings. You get a very outside voice in Ray Whitney, and it kind of rounded things out.
Zach, you keep tabs on both the prospect pool and the NHL team. Obviously, your main gig is talking about the LA Kings, but is there, and this is not, I don't know that I'm asking this correctly, but I'm thinking about it. You talk about these short-term deals, these older players. Are there prospects coming in the next couple of years? Is this sort of a bit of a stopgap from Ken Holland? Or, you get Panarin, a huge franchise-changing trade last February. You got to make sure you put some players around him, right?
I would say yes and no. I don't think that the stopgaps are in terms of prospects. I think the stopgaps are in terms of what the Kings truly need was not available this summer at a reasonable rate. Like if you look at the roster, the biggest hole is a top 6 center, and specifically a first-line center. Anže Kopitar is retired. The hope is that Quinton Byfield can ascend into that role. I think he can take a real step this year. But look at the players that changed hands this year. They were either going for multiple first-round picks, higher caliber prospects, or they weren't going. Dylan Larkin's still in Detroit. And the player the Kings truly need, in my opinion, and I think in the organizations, just didn't come available this summer. So what can you do? You bring in guys like Haula, like Lawton, like Zuccarello, like Perry, like Gustafson, guys who can make you better right now, but they don't compromise your ability to try and add that player over the next 12 to 24 months. The Kings do have some guys coming through the system, but I don't think they're 1-2 years away, the top end guys. I think they're maybe a little further out. The guys who are maybe a year or so away are probably more depth players than they are top 6, top 4 kind of players. But I think what the Kings tried to do was they're very flexible. I think they have 35 to 40 million in cap space next summer. If that player becomes available, Drew Doughty's 11 comes off the books, and there's a lot of flexibility going forward, but you don't attract those kind of players if you suck. Right? Like if the Kings didn't fill those spots and they regressed immensely, those top players don't want to come to you. So I think it was a short-term solution with an eye on trying to land those bigger fish type players maybe over the next couple of years.
Zach, it's funny when you mentioned Witt, and then you just mentioned Byfield, and you mentioned Phil before that. And so, is Housley there for Clark, and is Witt there for Byfield? You think that has something to do with that?
I do, for sure. I think specifically with Phil and Brant, I think there's a real connection there. We spoke with Peter, spoke with Phil. They're both extremely excited to work with Brant. Peter said it outright. He said, I'm really excited for Phil Housley to work with Brant Clark. I think that Brant Clark took a big step last year. He played about 3-4 minutes more per game than he did as a rookie. And I think there's probably 3 to 4 more minutes in him to get to where he could be. And what better tutor than a Hall of Fame defenseman, one of the best to ever do it the way that Brant plays. So I think that Phil has a lot of, ideas for Brant Clark. I think he's really excited to work with Brant. I think that's a great point, especially with those two. I think with Ray, there is something potentially there with Quinton. I think personally for Quinton, the bigger thing is that Anže Kopitar is not here. And he lost his support, right? Like there's no falling back on having Kopi. It's time for Quinton to take that step. And if he doesn't, there is not anyone behind him. Pierre-Luc Dubois is not here anymore. Phil Deneau's not here anymore. Anže Kopitar is not here anymore. It's Quinton's time. And it's optimistic. It's not a lock, but you wonder if he can seize the moment because there's no one else here to seize that moment.
Boy, that's fast. I want to ask more about that, but we have to hit an ad break, so don't go anywhere. Let's see not only if we can sell some shirts, but if Zach can get Luds to flip them off again. It wouldn't be very hard here on DLLS.
Well, Zach, I'm not even going to try to sell you a shirt because we have nothing that will fit in the appearance. But we do have some cool shirts, and we've been trying to get our GM to send some shirts out to our guests, and no one's gotten one yet. So you're on a list. But one thing I can tell you, I know there's a couple of women that we've spoken to. They're probably at the top of the list, so now you're near the bottom of the list. Our first one, though, Sam's got it on today. I think, yep, we got Nothing Else Matters right there. And, Zach, I guarantee you will love this one. Everybody loves this shirt right here. And generally, there it is. There's our Nothing Else Matters. That was our motto that we kind of put that label on our players. Well, they're not our players, but we put it on the Dallas Stars last year at the start of the year, and we figured that, nothing else matters than winning the Stanley Cup. So that paid off.
Didn't work.
Yeah, it got them to the first round. So we'll get something else in there. Then, and because he wasn't healthy, that's what my excuse is going to be. He wasn't healthy. We have the Mikko Rantanen collection. So we start with his finisher shirt. Nobody else has more than one shirt, by the way. But there's the finisher one for Mikko. And then, of course, we have the big Moose shirt, which when he first got here, he started running people over. So he was playing like a Moose, and then he just decided to do everything else along with it. So we're hoping that a couple other guys can run some people over for him. Then follow up with that, we have a whole bunch of Finns this year. So we're going to be swimming around with the Finns here this year, and we have a bunch of them, and they are the Finnish Mafia. We've got that one, which is a short sleeve shirt, and then we've got the hoodie. And
California folks.
Zach, I don't know, Corey Perry, next time he's in town, he may have to bump heads with our captain because he is back. Jamie Benn, the captain, is back.
Oh, they're buds.
So that is a 36-year-old versus a 41-year-old, something like that. My money will be
that is correct.
Yeah, my money will be on Jamie Benn. And don't forget, we've got the Robo, Bang, Jason Robertson, and then we've got the Wyatt Johnston sharpshooter. There you go.
Well done, Luds. Well done.
There you go. I was about to say, Luds, there's one other player that has two shirts, and it's Wyatt Johnston.
Wouldn't you like to have that in your center depth, Zach? Wouldn't you like to have that in your center depth?
Oh, you're just teasing Zach now of offering Wyatt Johnston. I like the idea of Dylan Larkin. Let's bring Zach back on here. He's dangling. It's like he's got the catnip out saying you can't have Wyatt Johnston as your 1C. That'd be nice. I'm interested.
I thought the Mikko Rantanen shirt with the elbow in the air was fitting for this one from when he ran Darcy Kemper and an uncalled play that cost Darcy Kemper like 3 weeks of the year.
Yeah.
I thought that was a good one. I'm surprised. Maybe Darcy in the background, like laying there with no power play coming for the Kings. Maybe we could make that one.
That's funny you said that. When Lutz said he started playing like a Moose, I was like, I'm pretty sure one of his penalties and suspensions was potentially linked
December
to the Kings.
15th in Dallas. Yep.
Yeah. Sometimes Moose can get.
There sure wasn't a penalty. There sure wasn't a suspension for that.
They did get the goal waved off. I would like to point that out.
Sometimes Rantanen gets a little bit gets a moose on skates and isn't able to slow down. Zach, I can't talk LA Kings without asking you about fellow Chatham, New Jersey native Alex Laferriere, and not just because he's from my hometown, but because he's had a really good progression to his career. Scored 20 for the first time, played a lot of minutes. I think he was over 18 this year per game. Where is he at in his development? And more specifically, is he someone they see as a top six, or is he more of that middle six kind of guy?
One of my favorite players in the organization. He's a jack of all trades guy. His Corsi, his scoring chance, those underlying metrics are always not only among the top on the Kings, but among the top in the NHL. He's kind of a volume shooter. What I really like about Alex Laferriere is that he can play any role on any line. If you want him to complement your two best players, he'll do it. If you want him to check on a third line, he'll do it. And he'll do both effectively. If you need him to play center, he can do so. Kopitar missed some time last year. Laferriere moved into the middle, played with Kempe, played with Panarin a little bit. Like, he's done a lot of things for the Kings. And I think sometimes you look at his numbers, I think he kind of scored 20 goals at times in spite of his usage. He was never really set up to where it was built for him. Oftentimes he was like the last guy you plug into the top nine because he's so versatile. And maybe that hurt his numbers a little bit, but it helped the team. He's one of those kind of players. I'm a huge fan of Laferriere. I think he could score 30 in the NHL, maybe as soon as this year. I think that he'll probably play on either the second or the third line. Really depends how the Kings shake out the centers. But I think he could play anywhere in the top nine on most teams in the league. And he's not going to blow you away with anything, but he's not going to hurt you in any way either. He's just one of those guys that I think you win with and you like to have on your team.
Sounds like a Chatham kid.
Last year, I brought up when you were on how the Kings have a bit of a foil in the Oilers, right? You've lost, at the time, 4 straight first rounds to Edmonton, including last, so I guess this would have been the 25 playoffs, where I thought the Kings had them, and then obviously the challenge and the overturn and all that. We don't want to get back into that. At least it was a different team this year, but got swept by Colorado, and it's been since the 2014 Stanley Cup year that the Kings have won a round. And you look at some of the underlying numbers last year, 29th in goals for. Only Chicago, Vancouver, and Calgary had less. Power play was 28th. These are things you're very well aware of, but just for our viewers' sake, very good on goals against, 7th in the league in goals against, but the penalty kill was not very good. It was down near the bottom at 74.6. As far as offense and power play, when we're watching that series with Colorado, I remember Luds and I had one conversation where I think it was game 2. LA was all over the Avs. They played a great game, just couldn't score. Finally get the lead, and then they get one back and then lose in overtime. And we're just sitting there going, like, if it's not Panarin, where's that goal going to come from? And you talked about the additions, and I'm just sitting here thinking, like, Zuccarello, healthy, should help that power play, right? His passing is elite. You have Panarin that's leading the charge. Byfield, Kempe, you should have a pretty good top power play unit. Where do you think the goals are going to come from? Because this team has been pretty good defensively. Where's the offense come from?
Yeah, I mean, you hit on a lot of points there. And I think the Kings, I have to fact check myself, are the only team in the league last year in the bottom 5, both on power play and penalty kill. The Kings went like 10 and 20 something in overtime. They were really bad 3-on-3, despite going to 3-on-3 more than any other team in the league. Ludd's asked about Ray Whitney. I think a big part of Ray Whitney is going to be the power play. The Kings will not make the playoffs if they're in the bottom 5 on both special teams this year. There's no way. The power play has to improve. And I look at the wingers, and I think that on the wings, the Kings are as deep as they've been probably since the Cup years. The only guy you didn't mention is Kevin Fiala, who was here last year but got injured at the Olympics and missed the entire playoffs and end of the regular season. So you add Fiala, who was on pace for about 30 goals last year, has scored 35. You had Zuccarello just shy of a point per game last year. And then you get Alex Laferriere, who had 20. Trevor Moore, who has a 30-goal season but missed time with injury last year. Kempe, who has 40-goal seasons. Panarin, who is over a point per game player. All of a sudden, you've got 6 wingers that are pretty good. Like, that's pretty impressive. And for a while in LA, the question was like, who's going to play on the power play, more so in terms of like someone who maybe shouldn't be on the first power play is going to be. Now it's going to be like, you're going to have 2 or 3 guys who maybe could be on your first power play who won't be. And that, I think, is going to be a huge area. So I think that the Kings are as stacked on the wings scoring-wise as they've been, at least in my time here. If the power play can improve with Ray Whitney, with Phil Housley, with Peter Laviolette, if the team can score more goals. And the other thing you didn't mention is the Kings were 32nd in scoring from their blue line. And Laviolette and Housley want the defenseman to activate. So there's a lot of ifs there. But I think there's a lot being addressed to those ifs, and that kind of played into what the Kings did this summer.
You heard it from Zach. Cody Ceci will be a 20-goal scorer this year.
He might. 20. I like Cody.
Okay.
You never know. All right, let's go ahead.
They're gonna need all them guys to score. Last year, what they have 22 games that they won in regulation. How do you do that out of 82?
It was astonishingly low.
It doesn't matter, right? Just get to the playoffs. Hey, mentioned earlier, you guys when you were talking about 1C and 2C, and then the 53C. Wyatt John said it made me think. Speaking of C's, you don't have one right now. What is it? Is it Doughty? Is it Anderson? Is it Kempe? What's your thoughts?
You hit the three names for sure. Peter Laviolette is not going to come into camp with a captain. His philosophy was, I need to be around these guys and see how they operate, see how they lead before I make a decision. I wouldn't be shocked if there were 3 A's to start the year. I think Drew is the most obvious candidate, but his contract situation, I think, makes it maybe a little bit difficult. He's in the last year of his deal. The Kings are not going to sign him to an extension until the end of the season. They're not going to trade him without Drew's request to do so, but they're not going to sign him now until they see how the year goes. So I think that kind of throws a little bit of a wrench into the equation, is like, he's the natural successor. Yeah. But it's hard to make a guy with 1 year left on his deal your captain. Kempe is the lead by example, younger player. Anderson is the vocal leader among the younger players. If you want my bet, my early money would probably be on Adrian Kempe. I think he's kind of the face of the franchise. He's probably the best player on the team, and he's grown a lot as a leader. He's a little bit more in the mold of a Kopitar style leader than like a rah-rah kind of leader, but he has a lot of respect in the room. So I think those three guys are going to be in the mix, and I think that Laviolette, if he's going to name a captain, it's probably going to come just before the season as opposed to before camp.
All right, we've talked about Kopitar a bunch without diving too deep into it. Zach, I'm just fascinated to hear your side of the final year of Kopitar and going through all that, and now how this team moves forward without him. I think there's a statue, right?
The statue is planned, as well as the retirement of the number
going up in the rafters. Just take us through that whole final season of someone who, as you said, face of the franchise for a very long time.
Yeah, it was really cool to kind of follow along with it. You know, he set so many milestones, played his 1500th game, became the all-time, scoring leader in Kings history during that final year. It was special to be a part of it. It was cool the Kings were able to rally late in the season to get into the playoffs. So his last game wasn't, some lame duck throwaway game in Calgary. It was a playoff game, and he had the chance to at least compete for something in that final game. You can't replace him. This is the best player in Kings history. Never a question here that his number would be retired this year. Never a question there would be the statue outside to compliment Dustin Brown's. He's iconic. Just a good person. It was unbelievable to kind of be around him and see what he was able to do, even in the latter stages of his career. And he'll certainly be missed. It creates a hole, and it creates opportunity for other guys this coming year. It's going to be weird to go into that first day of camp and not have 11 on the board for media to do that season opening interview. It's going to be a little bit different for sure. But it was so interesting to go through it with Kopitar and Brown, because Dustin Brown didn't announce it until between games 81 and 82, whereas Kopitar announced it at the start of the year. I think he wanted to quell kind of the speculation around would he or wouldn't he. I think it created maybe a different sort of, I don't know if I want to say distraction, but narrative that, hey, everyone knew. So it was a story because he said it was a story kind of thing. Whereas Brown, it was the will he, won't he situation. But all in all, it's going to be a really cool night when that number goes up. And I don't think there's been a more impactful player in franchise history than Anže Kopitar, and he deserves every bit of the recognition.
If you guys haven't followed Zach, he does a great job. His comprehensive reporting, on the scene is really enlightening with the Kings. Zach, I know you've probably chewed on this, but for our viewers that aren't Kings diehards, 2 years ago, LA had 105 points, 6th best in the league, and led by a massive home record. I think it was the best home record in the NHL 2 years ago. It was 31-6-4. The road record was a little bit, it was 2 games under 500, 17-19-5 2 seasons ago. Last year, it flipped. 20-10-11 on the road. Not bad. 11 overtime points is finding a way to get results. But 15-17-9 at home. What the heck happened at what I still want to call Staples Center?
It should be.
I'm grumpy that way. But at Crypto, why did that have such, 31-15 wins? That's a massive drop-off.
It's unbelievable. I probably asked every player on the team, every coach, everyone in the, no one could put a finger on exactly why. The Kings, they had the team stay downtown before games at times. They tried to switch things up. They tried canceling morning skate, moving morning skate up, moving morning skate back. They tried all these different things and just nothing worked. I don't know, honestly. It was absolutely perplexing to see it happen because they couldn't lose at home the first year. 105 points, played games 1 and 2 at home, in the playoffs won them both. They just couldn't lose at home. And then last year, they just couldn't find any momentum whatsoever. And that 15 was really bolstered by a season-ending homestand where I think they went 5-1-1 to close the year in their final 7. So and that was after a coaching change. Without that, you're looking single digits for into March. It was insane. I haven't seen anything like it. And I think the guys just kind of ran. No one had an answer. It was just tough.
Zach, I think that probably the last one for me, I'm assuming. Listen, since you're talking about Kopitar, he's been so important, not just that team, but to the league. As a matter of fact, his brother was coaching, with the Junior Kings. And so maybe he could jump in and help him out a little bit. I didn't see his brother last year, so I don't know if he's still doing that, but he could use a little help. Just give me one thing. I know it's hard to narrow it down. What's the one thing that this team is going to miss as far as Kopitar being gone? Can you put your finger on one thing?
For what it's worth, I worked in the ECHL with Adirondack. I used to watch Gasper Kopitar play in Manchester, bunch of games before I watched Anže. So there was a time when I had seen more Gasper Kopitar games in person than Anže Kopitar games in person. He was a pretty good player on his own right at that level. I think, Ludge, it's the consistency for me with Kopitar. His never too high, never too low. His good games were always good, but he rarely jumped off the page in terms of highlights. He just was so consistent in all aspects of the game. And his bad games, you rarely walked away being like, Kopitar stunk tonight. It was you could pinpoint, you could count him on one hand the amount of times per year. The consistency in his play and also the consistency that his play brought to the room, you can't really replace that. And I think it's just that game-to-game approach that he had and the way that he always seemed to contribute in some way on every night. That I think is for sure what the Kings are going to miss because you just don't have those kind of players grow on trees.
Okay, I have one more question. We're almost out of time, but I have to throw this in.
Do it.
Jason Robertson. We went through, obviously, the Stars' exit in the first round was unexpectedly early for this franchise over the last 4 or 5 years. And there was a ton of contract speculation before it finally got done. And he seems to be constantly linked with his hometown, LA, Anaheim, but especially the Kings. I know he went to both, but he was a Kings season ticket holder. His family was. Was there any smoke with Robertson and the Kings during that whole saga? Because I know his name got thrown around all over the league.
Smoke for sure. I think that the fit would have been better next summer. I think the only reason I really think there was any issue in Dallas was the number, right? I don't think it was a matter of player or stylistic fit or anything like that. And the Kings next summer, it would have been, dynamite. This summer, there would have had to be a contract going back. And I didn't think the fit was as good considering Dallas is in win now mode. And if you're the Kings and you're acquiring Jason Robertson for massive assets, you're also saying we're in win now mode. definitely something we talked about a lot. You hear the name quite a bit. There's obviously the LA, Southern California ties, and he's a heck of a player. So it would have been, for a team that, like you said, it struggled on the power play, struggled to score goals. You add one of the best goal scorers in the NHL. It's a no-brainer. I think the fit was a bit of a struggle this year with what the Kings had to give up, because if you're the Kings, you can't give up, say, a Byfield or a Clark, which would be of interest to Dallas, because you're just moving forward in one area and taking a big step back in the other area. I didn't think that made sense for the Kings. So I think if it were next summer, I think there would have been a much bigger push. This summer, I just think the fit never truly clicked with me.
So Robertson for LaFerriere, 1-for-1.
Yeah, this is the guy who made a joke and said we should trade Robertson for Michael McCarron straight up.
McCarron type players.
Yeah, and then we made an AI picture of Sam with a life-size McCarron, was it body pillow?
Yes,
I think it was. Yeah, we had some fun with that. Zach, your information is always incredible. I love having you on. The Stars play, hold on, I have it in front of me real quick, 3 times, but twice in LA this year, as it's later in the season. January 9th in Los Angeles, February 8th in Dallas, and then March 13th back in LA. So at some point, let's get you back on during the year. Thank you for carving out some time today. I always enjoy talking hockey with you.
Hopefully it dips down into the upper 80s for that trip in February. We could
check him out at Dooley LA Kings on Twitter. Zach Dooley is incredible. Kings Insider. Check him out.
Thanks, Zach.
Thank you, Zach. Up next.
Thanks, guys.
We'll wrap this one up here on DLLS. But first.
All right, let's talk about being a diehard. I got all of them in there. But first, all right. And
all
let's
right.
talk about being a diehard.
All the time now.
You know what? I would tease something, but I don't know what you're talking about. So on Monday, there's some news about being a diehard, and it's going to be epic. That's as much as I'm going to give you. So alldls.com/diehard, you get access to everything that we do. You get a free t-shirt when you sign up. We have all kinds of shirts. You can get that one that Owen's wearing.
I actually really like
I don't know
this
if
one.
you can get this one yet. Has that changed maybe when you sign up?
It
Because I know
might
you
be.
couldn't originally.
Yeah, because it
Ryan's
was
shaking
brand new.
his head. So
No,
no, you
still
can't
no?
yet. But you can get 20% off of this shirt. You can get a free shirt and then get 20% off any of the stuff that we have. Flags, coffee mugs, shirts, hats, all that kind of cool stuff. And then you also get 20% off of events. We are starting to get closer and closer to training camp and preseason, and soon enough we'll be heading down the road to Jerry World for that outdoor-indoor game. I changed it that time for you.
Thank you.
So that we can watch the Dallas Stars play the Vegas Golden Knights.
The Death Star.
Who knows what uniforms, who knows what sort of event we do, but I'm sure we will find a way to do something cool, and you get 20% off of that. And then if you want to get the latest and not miss out on anything, join the Discord. The Discord is not just fun for chatting about movies and getting your anger out during a game or after a game. Also, you can get questions in for our show so we can ask our guests. We can do a Lud's Damn Discord maybe one of these days, since that's been on hold for a bit since he's been out of town. You can ask questions like that. I do diehard mailbags about every month of articles of just your specific questions. And then Ben posts those events in there. So like if we went to Cosm a couple years ago, that event sold out right away in our Discord. When we did the takeover, I believe that one also sold out in our diehard Discord. So you don't want to miss out. All the reason to join being a diehard, alldls.com/diehard. And on Monday, some cool news about being a diehard.
And Kendra, diehard Kendra,
Making
said
fun of
you're
my
a
face.
tease. No, she said you look too young.
I'm only a tease because I don't know the answer.
We'll get to that. All right. I did the all right thing.
All right.
Let's go to Luds, since Sam just talked for 2 minutes.
Yep. Tired.
What's your feeling after talking with Zach about the Kings? What anything that sort of gets the gears going before you see the season get underway?
No, not for me. I mean, I just, again, I look at what they added, and but like I said, sometimes when teams get talked about adding older players read about it, they hear about it, and next thing you know, they're not playing like older players.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, I think obviously a lot of things. I don't know about their center down the middle of the ice.
I don't either.
They don't either.
Well,
But
the Dylan Larkin thing
Byfield
makes a
is
ton of
good.
sense, doesn't it?
He
But they
needs
don't
to-
have the prospects.
If Byfield doesn't get 40, the other two might not get 40 combined, 2 and 3.
Yeah.
I don't think they are going to anyways. So I just don't know what they have down the middle of the ice. Maybe they're just another team that there'll be some of these veteran guys will score some timely goals and they can keep the defense where they had it. and then find a way to get into the playoffs, and then you just never know. And we didn't even talk about Panarin, which there's so much to talk about, but I don't know, what did they do to help him? Did they add anything to help him? And maybe it's just as simple as playing with, just put your 3 best guys together. So it'll be interesting.
The projected lineup I'm looking at says Panarin, Byfield, and Kempe as their top line.
Yeah.
Is that good enough? Maybe.
I mean, that line is good enough, but below that,
what is good enough?
That's their 3 best players.
You mean good enough to win more than 22 games in regulation? I don't know, possibly
to make the playoffs.
Well, what about the blue line?
I mean, you're gonna play a higher seed, and you're probably gonna be out in the first round.
Yeah,
which is what they've done for the last decade plus. Mikey Anderson, Drew Doughty, Joel Edmondson, Brant Clark, Brian Dumoulin, Cody Ceci. That's a pretty veteran group. I mean, obviously Clark's the young one. It's a question of, are the older guys, like Anderson's still in his prime. He was 27 or so. But Doughty, Edmondson, Dumoulin, Ceci, they're all on the other side of 30. Smart, experienced guys. Age versus experience seems like a battle on that group.
You know what I like about our other 31 is we get, it's so easy for us to look at everything on paper and read and what we saw from the team before and kind of make assumptions. But we get some of the thoughts that we have about the Stars where, you see them every day and maybe you don't think this way. For Zach, pointing out that this was they understand that they added a bunch of older players, but it wasn't to fix this team and be like, this is what makes us a Stanley Cup champion. It was to put a little bit of a Band-Aid on and keep us competitive, keep us with some names that are in there that are attractive, and then let's get us a center next summer or this year. I think that was a cool way to look at it, to kind of push down a little bit of the fact that we're all saying, hey, this team is one injury away from being very, very in a lot of trouble goal-scoring wise. It's an interesting way to look at it. They're kind of treading water to get themselves to the next level. His
answer about Robo was the same about, I think, Dylan Larkin, because Larkin would really help that center group.
Yes.
If you had, in no particular order, but Byfield and Larkin as your top 2, and you pushed Holla down to your 3rd and Lawton.
Yeah, it helps a ton.
It gives them a lot more of a spine. But if it's the cost of Byfield or Brant Clark, is it just in and out and you're kind of net neutral?
Yeah, and I think that's probably what Yzerman wanted. I'm sure the 2 teams talked, and Yzerman kept going after one C's to try to replace Larkin.
And if you're Dallas and you were even thinking about moving Robo, Quentin Byfield, or a 23-year-old right shot defenseman, Brant Clark, would be at the top of your list.
Yeah. No, not a lot of teams are in a spot where they have a superstar. Maybe 2 years from now with some McDavids or Matthews type of players, but no one's really in a spot where they have this guy who can score 40, but the rest of the team is happy to take a couple younger players. They all want to replace what they're getting rid of. Unfortunately, for someone like Dylan Larkin, you're not going to get Wyatt Johnston out of it in return. So it's a tough spot for LA too, but they're doing a good job of, they want to make the playoffs again. I think it's huge for them. Make the playoffs and maybe win a round. Show that, just show that.
It's been 12 years.
Yeah, but it's just, show everyone that we're not taking steps backward. We're at least in the same spot, if not maybe a step ahead. Go to a game 7, put the Edmonton Oilers to the test so that you can attract that one player. Because otherwise, why would you go to LA right now?
They've got to find a way to score more goals, because I remember that conversation that Luds and I had after, I think it was the second game against Colorado. We just said they held the Avs to very little. They can't score. If it's not Panarin, who's going to put the puck in the net? Luds, the only good thing about where LA is right now, I mean, not the only, but one of the positives, they're in the Pacific Division. It's there for the taking.
Well, the other good thing is they're in LA. I mean, the weather's pretty
that
beautiful.
too, yeah.
I think if they're going to get to goal totals that push those those wins up, I think something's going to depend on Drew Doughty. Is he gonna relinquish 2, 3, maybe 4 minutes to somebody like Clark? And because I just think that with Housley coming in there, I think they want to get him to be a 60, 70-point guy. And he's an offensive-minded guy. He can skate. He can do all those things from the back end. So, but that means, and for him to be on the power play, Doughty's going to have to take a step back or take a back seat, possibly. But the competitor that he is, maybe he elevates his game to where he feels that he can get it. So I just think that some guys might have to take a half a step to the side to let some of these other guys get in there. So we'll see where that goes.
That's exactly why I don't think Drew Doughty will be named captain of this team, is because he's probably going to have to take a step back. And you can. I'm not saying you can't do that and be a captain, but But it's the same conversation with Jamie Benn. It's like, should he be captain again if we're all assuming he's going to be playing 4th line minutes? It's a tough spot. I think they were better off saying that let's turn the page here after.
What if the thing that Zach said about the contract, like they're not going to extend. Now, Doughty's 36, so he could do the Jamie Benn thing and do a 1 year with performance bonuses if he wants to stay past this year with LA.
Different deal with Jamie and Doughty. Doughty hasn't been wearing the C. Jamie's worn the C. So Jamie comes back. It's hard to take that away from him.
Yeah.
Yes.
It just is. And
I agree.
I think from Doughty's standpoint, where it's hard is that even if he plays well, does he have 2-3 years left in him? So maybe it's the time to hand it off. But that's a conversation I would think that, and again, I think Anderson and Kenny and guys at the top of the mountain can have that talk with Drew and say, listen, here we are. Here's where you're at. Here's where the team is. You're nowhere near less important than you ever have been. You're an important cog, but let's be honest. The Grim Reaper's down the road there somewhere, and he's pretty close from the standpoint of playing. There you go. He's right on Sam's chest. So, and he may be the first guy to go, yeah, you're right. I mean, because he's going to be, he should have a statue in that building too. That's how important he has been to that organization, in my opinion.
The other thing, and I agree with everything you just said about not to give him the C, is contractually, Luds, if LA finds themselves at the deadline in that murky middle where they were this year and traded a couple guys away, is there a chance that they could try to bolster their futures by trading Drew Doughty as a rental?
Sure, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's got to be a team that is the core is there. I mean, and he's not going to come in and be the savior to a team, right? I think that he can come in and complement. If you got, say, Florida. I mean, and it's not fair to use Seth Jones as an example, but because Brad Marchand. Marchand is, kind of towards the end of his career. He came in, he found some extra life, and he became that spark plug. But he didn't have to be the guy; he just had to be himself. So, I think he's a guy that at the trade done, like you said, he can just complement everything else. That's whatever D group that he's going to slide into there.
Sam, there's no way they could make it work space wise.
I was thinking the same thing.
But Doughty and Harley played pretty well together, didn't they?
That is exactly
we're expecting big things from
all they
Niels
need is
Lundqvist.
$11 million to make it
I mean,
happen.
50%, it's like 6.5.
Still, they don't have that either.
Yeah, 5.5. Anyway,
I thought the same thing.
Great stuff from Zach Dooley today. Always really enjoy his candor. Sometimes when you have a team employee on, it's difficult because they have to be careful to not upset the wrong people in the organization. Zach is giving it to you straight, and I love his insights that way. As always, very smart guy, a lot of fun. Luds, Monday, George Richards is scheduled. That's Florida Panthers Day. We knew you didn't want to miss talking about the Florida Panthers. It's our last Eastern Conference team, 16 of 16. And I wonder if there's anything for us to talk about with the Panthers and George
Summer's been boring.
on Monday. I know they haven't been very busy. So that should be
Luds
a lot of fun.
will be right here.
And we should have all of us in the same room again for the first time in a while.
If you had Keith Richards there, I'd be there for sure.
Brad Richards.
Keith will outlive us all. Thank you so much to Zach Dooley for joining us on this Friday. Don't forget to check out the brand new Petey mini pod. Steve Peters, who was our guest on Tuesday this week. We just dropped on YouTube a full breakdown of the neutral zone. It was more comprehensive than what we could do on the show because it has full video clips, not just screenshots. So he paused, but then ran some video. It's really cool. So check it out. Don't forget, like and subscribe, and tune in Monday where Sam will have some new diehard information that he'll learn
Talk about
probably
Miami
on Monday. So for Luds, Sam, and Ryan, I'm Owen. Have a great weekend here on DLLS.
We got to get you naked one day, Luds.
Bang.
We all silly like the mayor.